Hearing none, I would like to introduce Consistently Fast, really into how races work and everything. Mike Jarvis to give us a little Sailboat Racing 101. So, Mike, it's yours.
Right. Hi. Pretty much everybody here knows me, and I'm afraid most of the people here already know everything I'm going to tell you, but doesn't hurt to hear it again, and that there are a few new people. So uh, I hope this is of use to somebody. Uh, I've
We
got
are
a,
recording, Mike, so there's a potential for a wider audience.
oh, good, good. All right. So now my screen is there for everybody, and Racing 101. So everything starts with paperwork, as always. Um, for sailing, most of the stuff as a sailor, as a racer, you don't need to worry about, except for reading it. Later on, once we con you into being on the race committee, you're going to be writing all these documents yourself. But the first thing you need to know about is the notice of race, just what it says on the tin. It tells you, hey, we're going to have a race. It tells you what the race is, when it's going to be, where it's going to be, who's going to be there. Is this under 16 laser nationals? Is this, what is this? That's the notice of race. The second thing is more, well, maybe not more important. You have to know you're going to go. But once you've decided you're going to go to the race, you need to read the sailing instructions. It tells you what all the courses available are, how they're going to score it. Is this going to be one race, or is this going to be a 10 race series? They have special flags to identify the classes, or any special rules for this regatta. Um, it's really a good idea. A lot of races you can just show up without ever having read it. Tuesday night races at Renton Sailing, you can show up uh, knowing practically nothing, and somebody will help you out. But it's always better if you've read the sailing instructions. Uh, okay. Yeah. And for Renton Sailing, uh, the Tuesday night race notice of race and sailing instructions are on the website. So go check it out. They're up there. The starting line, always the first thing in a sailboat race. This is the first part of a course. And almost all sailboat races start upwind. And the starting line is drawn between the committee boat, which is where the race committee sits, and a pin, which is here. Everybody see my mouse? Yeah. So this is what the starting line would look like. The wind, committee boat, pin. Pretty simple. And that brings us to the rest of the race course. There are several different kinds available. At Renton Sailing, we've got two basic shapes of race courses, and those can always change direction and length. We made them sort of generic so that depending on wind direction and wind strength, we can go different ways. The race committee always want to give themselves options. Wherever you go to race, they're going to change the race course depending on what they want to accomplish. If the wind's really howling, they're going to make a really long race because you're going to go a lot faster. And if you have wind like we had last night, where at the end it was just dying out, we'll have a very short course. So here's our primary one that we use at Renton. So just a standard windward leeward, and this is in our sailing instructions. And notice there's nothing about north, south, east, or west, or the mark is going to be off Mercer Island or anything. It's just basically ABC lined up from the committee boat into the wind. And that gives the race committee maximum flexibility for where they want to place the course, how long they want to place the course for the wind that's available. But this is what we almost always use. The older standard, the triangular course, it's also got the Olympic triangle. This is what everybody used to use. Most people now go more to a windward leeward type of thing like this because you can get the jibe marks in yourself. You decide how far out you want to go, but you don't really need a jibe mark to do it. If you watch the America's Cup this year, everything was just windward leeward races. Even those boats go really fast at an angle, but they don't really go dead downwind. But they decided how far out they wanted to go themselves. Here's another kind that you don't really have to worry about, but I've committed down there a couple times at Tacoma. If another great place to go race. This is the southern end, or not the southern end. This is Puget Sound, just south of Seattle, down in Tacoma. And there's Tacoma, the port of Tacoma there. The starting line is usually here, and the sailing instructions are generally, go to the outfall and back, or, go here, go to the point and back. But these are all the racing marks that are available to the racing committee. Plus, they can set others because they've allowed themselves to do that in the sailing instructions. Newport Shores, this is pretty interesting. There is no official written sailing instructions that I know of. Here's all the marks that everybody pretty much knows. And everything is folklore. They will tell you today's race is going to go from the starting area to the blue boat mark. Well, blue boat is where we used to keep where somebody used to keep their blue boat parked, but it hasn't been there for 7 or 8 years. And sometimes they'll say blue boat plus one, which is you go to where the blue boat used to be parked and you go one more. So like I said, it's all folklore, which is why it's important when you do have sailing instructions, read them, because they will tell you all these things. And when you don't have sailing instructions, hang out with people who have the local knowledge.
Mike, I'll mention that like these blue boats, those are all and the ones at Tacoma, most of those are what they call government buoys. So it's going to be, most of these are speed regulatory buoys that are in that Newport Shores race, or it may be some sort of navigation mark that that's got enough water to go around it. So like Meadow Point is a common one. The red channel mark it'd be green channel mark, sorry, up there, that's common if you race off a shoal show. Right.
Good point. Okay. There's other things you can look out for. Some places have offset marks. If you get like a J105 race, it's pretty common. Bigger boats that have spinnakers, they'll have a mark. You go to the windward mark and then you go off 25, 50 feet before you can set your spinnaker and start heading downwind. If you watch the America's Cup, remember they used gates where there were 2 marks. You went through the middle and you could decide which way around you wanted to go. You could go left, you could go right. You don't see any of these at Renton Sailing races yet, but I mean, who knows? The future, maybe we get some America's Cup boats. We'll start doing gate races. If you want to know what the course is, the race committee is the one who decides. Usually they will take input from sailors, but they're the ones who are going to decide, how long, where the race is going to go to. And they do this based on how long they want the race to last. A lot of people do their racing after work, and so they want to get finished before the sun goes down. If it's one race, usually they will tell you about it at a skipper's meeting on shore before everybody goes out to their boats and goes out. If there's multiple races like we have on our Tuesday night, there will be signals on the committee boat, and our signals on the committee boat, there's green and red letters that tell you, A, B, C, and they will be in green, tell you, or red, depending on which way you're going to round. Remember, port, wine, red. So red letters mean round it to port, green mean round it to starboard. And so here's an example. Here's what the sign on the boat will look like. This is for the older one, the triangular course. So that's saying go to the windward mark, go to the leeward mark, go to the windward mark and round it to starboard, go to the leeward mark, round it to starboard, go back to the windward mark and round it to port, and then finish downwind with the pin on your starboard side. Here's a more typical one. That was sort of a freaky one that I don't know why they did such a weird course, but this is more typically what you'll see. ACBP, mostly port roundings. But let me see, get my annotate. So it was an A, means start from the starting line, go up to the A mark, and we were rounding to port, and I can't draw. So we went that way, and then go to C and round it to port, and then it was go to B and round it to port, and then finish downwind because the P was in green. So A, C, B, P. So let me clear that. The next one is, go back to the mouse. Whoop. AC2P, just another example here real quick. And where's my pen? Spotlight stamp. Oh. Okay, well, it was what? AC, so you'd go to A, C, and since it was 2, you'd go to A again, C again, and then finish upwind. Because the AC2P, the 2 just meant 2 laps, and the P was red, so you finish upwind. And here, let me show you now how to start the race. There's a bunch of signals. There's going to be horns and flags and fireworks and lights and all sorts of things telling you when the race starts. Any of these things are legal. It's all in the sailing instructions that tells you what this particular regatta is going to use. There are 2 or 3 different standard things that are in the Racing Rules of Sailing put out by U.S. Sailing. If you go to Newport Shores for any of our weekend races up there, they don't use any of that. They have their own special homegrown system. We use a variation on one of the default systems, but ours isn't exactly like what they say in the book either. We make ours 3 minutes because we want to get in as many races as possible in one night. Most of the standard ones are 5 or 10 minutes long because they're counting on one race for big boats that's going to take 2 or 3 hours to finish. We want to finish a race in 20 minutes. So there's no point in having the start last more than 3. So when there's 3 minutes before the start, you will hear a horn honk, and you will see a flag go up. This is the number 1 flag. This is what we use to identify. This is our class flag. Since we only race one class of boats, that's what we use. If we ever go to multiple classes of boats, we would have a different flag for the second start. At 2 minutes, you will hear another honk, and a second flag will come up. This is the preparatory flag, the blue Peter flag. Get ready. We're about to start racing. There's only 2 minutes to go. At 1 minute, the preparatory flag comes down. You have been warned. Your time to prepare is over. You have 1 minute before we start racing. At 30 seconds, honk, honk, honk. That's just sort of a little warning to you. We're almost done. And then at 5 seconds before the start, you get a countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 with honks, and then a big long honk, and the flag comes down. And when the flag comes down, that's actually the official thing. Everything's based off the flags, not off the honks. But the honks are a good help for that. Okay. So when you're starting,
I'll mention that it's always good to have your wristwatch with you that has a countdown timer on it, and then you can just set it for 3 minute countdown and hit that button right when you hear the first honk.
Absolutely. And okay, so when you are starting, there's going to be a lot of boats there trying to get to the line at the same time, and all of our standard right-of-way rules apply. Starboard boats have right-of-way over port boats. Leeward boats have right-of-way over windward, and if you're overtaking somebody, you have to give way to the boat that is being overtaken. And there's a couple more rules. You have to give room at obstructions. So like if somebody's about to sail into the log boom and you have to move to give them room to tack away, well, then you have to move to give them room to tack away. You can't just run somebody into the log boom. You have to give them room when you get to the top mark. If they're inside of you, closer to the mark than you are, if they establish this overlap in the 3 boat length zone, this is sort of a tricky thing for people to get. That circle is the 3 boat length zone, and the 1 boat had to give the 2 boat room to get through. And the blue boat had to make a mark rounding in a seaman-like manner, so he couldn't just keep on going out to infinity and keep the yellow boat from tacking, or he had to just get around it as quickly as he could. The yellow boat went in with a lot of room at the mark, and he was able to come out closer to the mark because he had to give that room. So, and sometimes that's an advantage, particularly at the leeward mark. So it's not always, you have to give the room whether it helps you or not, but sometimes it actually is to your advantage to give the other people room. There's other rules. You can't hit a mark. That's not allowed. If you're over early, the race committee will raise the X flag. This is at the start. If you go across the starting line before the time hits 0, the race committee will raise the X flag. They'll honk the horn once. They're not required to tell you which boat was over early. If you go to other regattas elsewhere, they probably won't tell you. And if you were close to the line, it's up to you to decide, do I want to go ahead and race the entire race and maybe be disqualified because I was over early, or do I want to go back and start properly? And only you and the race committee know. So the other kind of thing that can happen is if everybody is over early, or a significant number, too many for them to keep track of, they'll raise the first substitute flag and they'll honk the horn twice. And that means we go through the entire start sequence all over again. Nobody wants that. And if they do that, they may set out, more restrictive rules on the start. We're not going to cover that tonight, but it's something that can happen. And there we go. Some of the penalties we just talked about, what's illegal, what can happen to you. You could just be disqualified. Most things, it's just take a penalty turn. That is a 360-degree turn. You have to tack, you have to jibe, and you come back up. Most places, if you hit another boat or force another boat to move when they didn't have to, if you have a penalty against another boat, you have to do it 2 times. Here, we just make it all one turn. All penalties are 1 turn at Renton Sailing for the Tuesday night, because it's sort of an introductory racing program, and we want to make it easy on everybody. There's only one thing you have to worry about. It's 1 turn. If you hit a mark or something that doesn't involve another boat, it's also 1 turn, but it's 1 turn everywhere. If you're over the starting line early, really all you have to do is go back and start over again. But I mean, that's penalty enough in itself because you're now behind everybody. You see. And a couple quick things here on, how do I get good at this? How do I have a chance of winning the race? One of the best things you can do to win the race is be out in front early. Starting is very important. Remember, if you're not the lead dog, the view never changes. So you want to be the lead dog. The easiest kind of start to do is reach out, reach in. This is what we always recommend to new people because it's easy to learn how to do it. It's easy to actually do it. And when the wind shifts or it picks up or it dies down, you can kind of correct where you're going with it. And it's important to have a good watch with this and be counting down from 3 minutes. It's all based on, you're going to go onto a beam reach. You're going to sail out to the edge of the course. You're going to sail away for half the time that it takes, or a little less than half the time. And you're going to turn around and you're going to sail back. And right when you get to the line, boom, the time should be up. And it's just that easy. If it's a 3-minute starting sequence, you sail away for a little less than 90 seconds because tacking takes time. You turn around, you tack, you turn around, you sail back for 90 seconds, and now you've got your start figured out. It's just about the easiest way to do it. There's other things you can do. The dinghy start um, is a great start in light boats uh, because you get an RS vision. If the wind is blowing, if you're sitting completely still, you can get from 0 to full speed in a boat length. It takes no time at all. You couldn't do this if you were in Etchells or if you were on Mike Hamilton's J105. It takes a little while to get both of those boats up to speed because they've got thousands of pounds of lead underneath the water. The dinghy start makes sure you're at the line. You can pretty much ignore the clock until it's almost time for the race to start. All those other boats that are coming in on the side, well, you're sitting there in the way. And as long as you're on starboard tack, you've got right away. So they have to avoid you. If the conditions change, if the wind picks up, the wind dies down, doesn't matter. You're sitting still. It does take some skill just to sit there in one place in a sailboat because the wind is always blowing and always trying to push you away. And if there's almost no wind, going from 0 to half a mile an hour can be more difficult than going from half a mile an hour to 1 mile an hour. So it takes a little practice and you want to do that. But here's what it'll look like. The green boat in this situation is basically doing a hover start or dinghy start. He's sitting in one place, and our guy who's doing a reach out, reach in has reached out. He's turned around. He's come back, and then the dinghy start guy has gone off, and they're about equal. Had the green boat been closer to the corner of the committee boat, he could have totally blocked the blue boat that was coming back in, and the blue boat would have had to duck around behind him or do something that would have cost him time. But I mean, that's perfectly legal because the committee boat is never an obstruction as the rules go. So nobody has to give you room to get around it. It's a mark of the course. The third one really doesn't apply that much to dinghies, but you can try it. It works. It's harder to get the timing right. This is really the same thing as the reach out, reach in, except you go downwind, you turn around, you come back up, close hauled. You can block reaching boats the same way at the race committee boat. It's a lot harder to do because your speed when you're sailing downwind is very different from your speed when you're sailing upwind. You need to tack all the way around, and it's a lot harder to do. In a bigger boat, this may be a better situation for you, but here's what it will look like. The green boat again, he's going away downwind. He's going to turn around, come back to a close hauled while the blue boat is still reaching out, reaching in. So now he's close hauled, they're reaching, and if the blue boat would have to give way there, but that's what it looks like. Once you've done the start, you're headed for the upwind mark. What do you need to look for? You want to look for clear air. You don't want to be blanketed by somebody else's sails. If you do, you're just not going to go fast. You're not going to get around them. You want to look around the race course and see, is there more wind on the left side of the course or more wind on the right side of the course? And if there's more wind, that's where you want to be. That is your engine. That's what makes you go. A lot of people, everybody usually starts on starboard tack because, as we said earlier, starboard tack boats have right of way. So if you try to start the race on port, you got to give way to a lot of boats. So a lot of people start on starboard and then they just stay on starboard tack until they've gone as far as they can. Then they turn around and they head back for the mark. A lot of times you're better off kind of staying toward the middle of the course instead of going all the way out to one side. That way, if there is a wind shift, you're there to take advantage of it. Sometimes, maybe you just know the wind's going to be better out in the middle of the lake and that's where you want to be. But you need to think about it and do it because you made the decision to do it, not just because, well, that's the direction I'm sailing, and when I get tired, I'll turn around. The other thing you want to do is pay attention to what the wind is doing right now. If the wind does shift and all of a sudden you're sailing at a lower angle, you're taking longer to get to the mark. You want to tack around. Now you're on a lift instead of a header, and it's going to take you less time to get to the mark. The other thing is learn how to roll tack the boat. In a light wind, you can come out of a roll tack faster than you went into it. That used to be illegal to do, but it is now perfectly valid. When you come out of a roll tack, you can be going faster. Uh, and a lot of times in super light wind, it's the best way to get going. Um, and it's not the most basic tacking technique, but it's the first intermediate skill you'll really learn. Um, so it's a good thing to have in your back pocket and pick up on it, and uh, you'll start blowing people away on Tuesday nights. When you get to the downwind, you round the upwind mark, you start heading downwind. You want to get the spinnaker up as quickly as you can. Look at the boats behind me up there. They both have their spinnakers up and they're flying. You've got a lot more square footage of sail up. You've got as much sail in the spinnaker as you have in the main. Well, the main and jib combined usually. The jib isn't doing a lot for you going downwind. So get the kite up quick. Your velocity made good is sort of a combination of your speed through the water, which everybody knows, if you sail really fast, you're going to do well. But if you sail really fast, pointing in the wrong direction, well, you're not really going fast. VMG is how fast you're going to get to the next mark. Now, sometimes you can get to the next mark faster by not sailing directly towards it, sailing in an angle towards it, because you can sail a lot faster at an angle. If you sail dead downwind, you're almost always going to be really, really slow. If the wind picks up and it's blowing pretty hard, you can often sail dead downwind. But unless it's 15 or better, you want to be at an angle. And deciding how far out, what kind of angle to sail is the trickiest thing about these boats that we race, because we don't have polar plots for these. We can't just look it up and say, oh, well, the wind is blowing 12. I need to sail at an angle of 155. We have to figure it out ourselves. So that's part of the challenge of it. And well, I wasn't really going to cover this. That's what a polar plot looks like. Go look it up online. They're a lot of fun. The next steps for racing, what you want to do before you really get serious about racing, go read the racing rules of sailing. There's a lot of rules. There's a lot of flags and stuff to learn in there. A lot of it, maybe 75% of the book is about how to set up a regatta. It's stuff the race committee needs to know that as a sailor, you might be interested in, but you don't need to know it. I mean, it's literally like who is in charge of the parking lot is in there, and you don't really care. You just want to show up and race a sailboat. But read the parts that apply to you. It really will help a lot. After that, now, barring COVID regulations, you want to sail with as many different people at the Tuesday night races as you can. If you get in a boat with me, I know different stuff than what John knows. I know how annoying John is at Tuesday night races because I sit there and curse at him, not because he's annoying, but because he's fast. And but if you get in a boat with John, maybe he's going to show you why he's going upwind so quickly. And as you get in a boat with me, maybe I've got some little trick with the spinnaker that he doesn't. And as you go around the club, you race with different people. You get in a boat with Tyler. He knows something different. Everybody knows something different. And you'll get it if you sail with a bunch of different people. And then you want to go off to other races, like the Newport Shores race, where a lot of times, there will be 6 or 7 boats racing, and 3 of them will be from Renton Sailing. And it's a chance to go out sailing with people that you already know. You've already met us and you've raced with us on Tuesday nights. But it's a different type of boat. It's a different type of racing. It's only one race that lasts all day long. But it's a good chance to expose yourself to different things, and you will learn different things being, in different boats and sailing different courses. And then after that, go out and sail with other people at other races. If you go to Newport Shores, I know the big 42-footer up there is always looking for crew because it's a big boat. They need lots of people on it, and they can tell you, stand here and hold this rope. And when we say pull, you pull, and that's all you have to do. And the more you know, the more you can help them out. but if you sail with other people on different types of boats, you'll learn a lot more. Go to Shoal on Wednesday night for Corinthian Yacht Club Seattle. Go to Tacoma, Tai Marina for Corinthian Yacht Club at Tacoma. Des Moines on Thursday night. Sloop Tavern Yacht Club has races on Saturdays out of Shoal. There
And
are
Monday.
and Monday. There are so many sailboat races in Seattle. You could race almost every day of the week if you really wanted to. Really go check these out. And people are really nice. You show up at the skippers meeting before the racing starts and say, "Hey, I need a ride," and tell them what your skill level is. The more skill you have, the more likely somebody will volunteer to take you on board. Don't lie about how much you know, because they will figure it out real quick if you get another ride. But a lot of people will take fairly new people. It's better if you've been through, some race some dinghies, go to a nice friendly race at Newport Shores where we can show you the way big boat racing works. But you'll enjoy it more if you know a little bit more. And then after that, talk to Ed and Chris. If you've been vaccinated, especially, you can go out on the committee boat for Tuesday night racing at Renton, and it is different from being in a race boat because you can watch the race. There's no pressure. You don't care that John is beating everybody. You can watch why he's beating everybody, and it's not going to bother you so much. You won't be cursing at him. You'll be studying him, trying to figure out why. And then you can go volunteer to be race committee at other races. A lot of race committees, they always need somebody just to, even if you don't know anything about how to run a race committee, they say, we just need somebody to write down what I'm saying. So when I say, this boat finished first, here's the time for the second boat, the third boat, somebody needs to sit there and write it down, and you can be unskilled labor for the race committee. And then at the end of the night, somebody needs to pull the marks out of 200 feet of water, and you can use your strong back to do that, or you can use the crab pop puller and you use your strong thumb to press the button. Either way, and then after you've done that a few times, take the race committee class. You will learn a lot about how races are run, and you will learn a lot more about sailing races too. You will learn the rules, that is for sure. And so when you get into a conflict with another boat on the race course, you will know you're right. So it's a good thing to do. And I think I got it all done in a reasonable amount of time.
I want to add that when I first started, I knew nothing about racing, and I found all of the rules really confusing. And so I went on the US Sailing website, and I don't know if you can see this. I probably have to turn my background off. But anyways, I found this little booklet. It's all of 19 pages long, and it's called The Sailor's Guide to Racing Rules. And I think it was really written probably more with the junior racers in mind. It's got some cute little cartoons and some diagrams, and it doesn't have a whole lot of legalese. And it talks about all the most common stuff, which a lot of which Mike reviewed tonight. I think it was about $5 to buy it off of US Sailing's website. So it was just a really super awesome. Maybe if I hold it up to me, you can see it.
Mm-hmm.
There it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's super quick read. You can read it while you're eating lunch, and it helped me a lot to understand it because it just really focuses on the bare minimum you kind of need to know to get around the course without getting into a lot of long-winded detail like the really fat, thick racing rules book does. So I found this little booklet a lot less intimidating.
I second that.
Yes. Well, my racing rules of sailing, I have tabs stuck in. It doesn't come with tabs, but I have Post-it notes, and I have 20 of them in there for a 200-page book. Just tell me, okay, I need to know where this rule is so I can look it up quickly. And that book, you don't need it. It tells you what you really need to know to get around the course.
One thing I like to do sort of on the racing rules is when I screw something up and I break the rule, I like to go look it up, and we can go file protests and stuff like that, or if someone else breaks rules, or someone can file protests against us. But it's always good to try to play by the rules, because that's a little more fun to do that way, and everything's fair and square competition. But I always try to look those up so I have a better understanding when it applies to a situation.
And it's
Sometimes
always
it's
good
easy
too.
to Google it too.
Well, and it's always good too. Again, COVID's an issue here. When better times come back, I imagine we will be returning to Dino's or whatever, the back patio, and everybody sits back there and has a beer, and they move their hands around and say, no, I was here and you were there and we were doing this. And, there's a lot of
With salt
discussion
and
about
pepper
the rules.
shakers.
Yeah. So it's a good way to learn the rules. Even if you go have a soda, you don't have to have a beer, but you will learn a lot about sailboat racing rules at the after event.
There's also a lot of smack talk there too.
Well, yes, that goes without saying.
Mike touched on this, and I just want to reiterate how important it is. One thing is to get a good start, which he explained really well. But the reason you want to get a good start is there. And Rebecca and I are talking before the meeting, and we used to do bike racing. And the important thing in bike racing is you're always right behind the fastest guy in the race, the whole race until the last 200 meters, and then you come around into the wind. So sailboat racing is exactly the opposite for the same reason. And because there is disturbed air 7 mast lengths behind the boat in front of you. And so you want to stay out of that disturbed air. And you can do that, by getting a fast start. If you screw up the start, then you want to, if everybody's going to the left side of the course and staying on starboard, then you probably want to think about tacking right away and going to the right side of the course, because there's going to be clear air over there.
Even if there's a little bit less wind on the right, a lot of times you will be better off just because you've got it all to yourself. Instead of fighting 7 boats for it, all the light wind is yours.
I want to reiterate what Rebecca put in the chat. Please don't feel intimidated by any of this. Tuesday night racing is called skill building through racing for a reason. It's not meant to turn you into an Olympic racer or even a regular Saturday racer. It's really meant to help you build skills. And for a personal testimonial, when I first showed up at the Sailing Center, I had no desire to get in a dinghy. I wanted to learn to sail keelboats, and I thought I wanted to go cruising. What the heck do I want to learn to race for? I can tell you that when I was put in the dinghy and then told, we're going around the race course, all of a sudden you have to turn when you need to turn, not when you want to turn or when you finally get the nerve up. So it made me a better sailor faster. And the other thing too is, and we'll be able to get to this summer if you're vaccinated. There's a number of us who are. I am, Mike is, John's almost there. I think Tyler is that once you're vaccinated, then we can all be in a dinghy together, because in a dinghy, we're less than 6 feet apart and we're unmasked. So to follow the CDC guidelines and so on and so forth, we need to be vaccinated to be that close together. But once you're in a dinghy with a more seasoned, I won't say advanced, but a more seasoned sailor, somebody that's been even a few more weeks than you're going to learn things from that person that you're in with. And the person you're in with is going to explain all of this stuff. So you don't have to memorize what Mike told you. You don't have to buy any books. You can learn it by the seat of your pants just by coming out on Tuesday nights. And even if you don't give one rip about racing, it will make you a better sailor when you want to go cruising in a keelboat.
I believe it was Mike Hamilton who told me that he would tack more times in a Tuesday night race than he did crossing the Pacific. Because there, you get on a starboard tack and you go for 37 days and then you might tack to port. But you're going to tack a lot. You're going to jibe a lot. You're going to use all those basic skills that we teach you in the intro class. You're going to use them all a lot. And you're going to do it 5 times in one night. You can have a lot of races. And no, this isn't meant to be an Olympic training ground, but it is, a first step. You can learn a lot about sailboat racing, even if it's not super serious racing. And then as you go on, if you do decide, oh, this is something I enjoy doing, uh, the Newport races are also not super serious races. They're just a little bit different boats. And so you can go to a different casual race. And if you want something more serious than that, then you can ask Mike to crew on his boat, and he'll take you for something a little more serious and work your way up. But if you don't want to do that, you don't have to. You can just go out and have a good time and then go have a beer on Tuesday night.
Yeah, and like Mike said, if you get really hooked, there's always the Sloop Tavern Yacht Club. There's Corinthian Seattle, Corinthian Tacoma. There's a race out of Des Moines. I mean, you could be in somewhat serious races every night of the week and on weekends if you really wanted to be. There's just tons of recreational racing around the sound.
I'll echo Beth and Rebecca's comments here. When I sort of got into this, that's my real interest is like what's over the horizon, cruising, voyaging, those kind of things. And it still is, but like Beth and Mike were saying, the sailboat racing will give you the basic skills real fast to go and do those kind of things, no matter what your interest is.
I know at the end of the summer of 2018, I got my advanced and then I became a dock master. And I think summer of 2019, I'd be dock mastering and new members would come up to me and ask me, how long have you been sailing? And I said, oh, I just learned a little over a year ago. And they like, how did you get so good so fast? It was because of Tuesday night skill building. Every time I got in the boat, I got in with somebody different. And every time I was in the boat, I watched what they were doing and I asked, why did you do that? What's that about? And just probably drove them all crazy. But I just sucked up as much knowledge by watching as I could. And most of the skippers also were pretty good about offering information about what they were doing too. It was just a really great way to learn to sail passably well, really fast.
Oh, and let me say too, if you're a more advanced sailor and you know what you're doing, I find I do better with a newbie in the boat than I do with somebody at my own skill level because I'm paying more attention to what's going on. Sailboat racing is the harder you think, the faster you go. It is all how well you concentrate. And getting from, we're doing 3.1 miles an hour right now. We want to be going 3.2. How do I do that? If I've got a newbie in the boat, I'm looking at every single thing and how do I make this better? If I got John in the boat, I know he knows what he's doing. I know what I'm doing. And sometimes I'll relax a little bit more because we both know what we're doing. And I don't have to think about it as hard. And if you stop thinking, you stop going fast. So if you are advanced, get a new person in the boat with you and you'll go faster.
How about questions and comments from not me or Beth?
Judy, why don't you tell your experience? You're a relatively new sailor.
Well, most of my sailing has been, at least definitely this last year, has been racing in the Etchells with Mike. And I remember actually the first time that I saw somebody sailing in Etchells out of the marina there, and being just totally freaked out that was a 32-foot boat with no motor and they were going in this space this big. And now, this much later, I'm still easily freaked out, but but I'm significantly more comfortable in the boat and rigging, de-rigging, maneuvering, all of it. I wouldn't it would frightening thought to think of me alone in the boat. It would never happen, but I am, the other thing is that we've had other people come out on the boat. It's great when it's John and Mike, but then also we've had Ernesto out with us a couple of times, and it's been good for me to reinforce sort of the what I know to prove to it's given me confidence in that it's proved to me that I do know as much as I do and more than I know about some things. So it's been a really good experience. I'm looking forward to being able to go out in the dinghies now I'll be vaccinated number 2 on Friday, but being able to go out with more experienced sailors again, whether it's on the weekend or for the skills building. But it's been really valuable for me to spend as much time in the same boat with Mike and John, both who are consistent in their instructions, and it's just been really great all the way around. I'm very grateful for the experience. So.
I'll just add that the skills and tricks you learn in the dinghies, they transfer to the bigger boats.
I have the feeling that if I can ever get to where I feel adequate in the dinghies, then it would be extremely helpful in the bigger boats. It seems to me that's like sort of learning how to drive a stick before you move to an automatic in a way. So.
I'd also like to say that the 3 Point Yacht Club races are a lot more polite than the Corinthian Tacoma Yacht Club races.
I don't think I've ever seen a polite yacht race. It's
All right. Any other questions?